I'd like to call the Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025 Ion City Council meeting to order. Janice, could you please call the roll?
Here.
Councilmember Atland, Councilmember Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Maida,
Here.
and Mayor Rhodes.
Here.
And I understand that Councilmember Lefane will be here after the first item of closed session.
Yes, Councilmember Lefane has a conflict with an interest adverse to the city for item B1, so not attending for B1.
Okay, we got two closed session items tonight. First one's conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. And second one, same thing, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. We will now go to closed session. We are now in open session. Will you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The report out of closed session is information received and direction was given. Can I get a approval of the agenda, please?
I'd like to approve the agenda, but I'd like to move, I'd like to move item L2 to L1 and L1 to L2. That would be moving Justin Granados' update on the wastewater and tertiary plant operations to the top, and then the Howard Park Master Plan following that.
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, we have no presentations tonight. Announcements, public comment. Any public comment items not on the agenda?
Good evening. I have Marcia Edick, I'm sorry. I have a few questions and a few comments. The first relates to the rumors going around our community in regard to the lack of ample water for the golf course. And we know that there's some item that is on the closed session, but of course, we are not privy to what that is. I am curious, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, if there is an issue with the lack of irrigation, ample irrigation for the golf course, why would that not be addressed in open session for all of the public to know? What would the secret be by keeping that in closed session, given the contract was just signed less than 2 months ago and could result in litigation? Hope we get an answer to that question tonight before we leave here. In regard to bank processing fees, I reviewed what Andrea put together, and one of my questions relates to bank processing fees, admin finance of $10,658, public works $4,032, and citywide services of $34,086. I'm curious what bank processing fees are. I mean, I assume they're fees imposed by the bank, but I'm wondering why we have over $50,000 or close to $50,000 in bank processing fees. Still waiting on some information from several meetings ago. There was a question that came up, and it was something about true up expenses on a PG&E bill where there are no solar panels. And I know I missed a meeting. I had company in town, but I don't recall there being a response to that inquiry. And at that same meeting, there was also an inquiry regarding the cumulative expenses relating to the censure. We know that the attorney investigator fees now total $28,037, which is far over the $15,000 that was approved. But there were also fees that were paid to the former city attorney, Mr. Panasco, for his interview, fees paid to other witnesses for their interviews, and all the legal expenses relating to the adoption of a censure policy, the censure itself, and then all the special meetings that followed. So I recall there was an inquiry, and I think it was from someone in the audience, wanting to know what the cumulative total is. And again, to my knowledge, I don't think we've been provided with that information. Hopefully we can get an answer to that sometime soon. I note from looking at the warrants that the council is going to approve tonight that the grand total for the law firm, White Brenner, amounts to $90,000, $288.92. $90,288.92. That's from invoices that were dated August 18th and August 19th.
You got 30 seconds.
And for anyone who is interested, general municipal amounted to almost 30,000 of that. Litigation amounted to about 13,200. Real estate land use, I'm guessing it could relate to the potential purchase of the property on Jackson, 8,394, and the golf course, 25,194. The other items were HR, water treatment, labor and employment contracts, sewer, tertiary, etc. Final comment is, I'm hoping we
Your
can get.
time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment items not on the agenda?
Dave Johnson, basically the one I had was you guys had voted in the purchase of that property. But I haven't heard if and I don't see it on the agenda tonight, if the appraisal came in to say what it was worth. Sort of my background concern is it seems like that's gonna be a pretty expensive property. And I think if you go to put the police station in there, you might have to add paraplegic type stuff in there and possibly sprinklers and stuff like that. So when I started penciling it out myself, what I looked at was the police department from before was paying about 3,800, including utilities. This looks like it'd be about 4,800 with utilities added to it, plus any tenant improvements you guys go to add. I'm a little concerned with the way the censure ran that it was 15 grand and it's 30. I think this 125 to 150 could easily go over 200 if you have to put in fire sprinklers and ADA compliance stuff in an older building. So a little concerned about what the appraisal came in at when you're trying to use it for commercial use and retrofit a building that's wasn't designed that way to begin with. So that's probably the only thing I have so far. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Anyone on Zoom, chief? Close public comment? All right, moving on to consent calendar. Can I get approval on the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull the warrants for comment, please.
The second to pull the warrants?
We don't need a second.
All right, what do you want?
Real quick, at the last budget meeting, we were told that we got about $100,000 wiggle room, and the biggest part of that was we got to get our attorney costs down to the 10,000 a month that it used to be. And this month, as this person just said, I also added that up. It's $90,000. We're not going in the right direction, and we need to take care of that. What I'd like to see is a new policy where the city manager and the mayor gets to sign off on anything that blows the budget. So that would be one of them. Whereas they at least have to initial the charge so that when it goes to warrants, it shows that someone has seen that. They have seen that it's gone over budget, but they're making a decision to pay it anyway. Instead of now, it seems like things just get paid and there's no discussion on it. So I'd like to, have that changed, going, maybe that needs to be put on an agenda item as a new policy, but,
I agree. We tried that before. Can we get an itemized bill from you?
You have,
and then,
So how do we present them? We have Andrea do it the next meeting?
yeah, I can work with Andrea on that.
Okay.
finally, I'd just like to see the warrants totaled, if you could put a grand total under everything, because you've got like PG&E, a big list, you got AWA, a big list, and sometimes, the attorney's got a big list. So just if they could put a total on there so that you wouldn't have to manually add it up, that would be very helpful. Thank you. That's all my questions.
I would just like to see how much of that is you preparing agenda items, you polling council, you emailing us, that work that staff usually does.
The area that would really help lower the legal bills is that the council members do not contact Mr. Ferensky directly. That amounts to a significant amount of funds. Is the various city council members contacting the city attorney directly by email or by phone call.
I understand the city manager, council, government, we're supposed to go through the city manager on these things anyway.
That does not happen.
And if you look at the the manual, that is definitely in there, including RFPs and things like that. So that is not happening here. So these are a lot of expenses that could be not there if we would just follow the proper protocol.
I will add that with the golf course behind us, I would expect the bills to go down. That for as long as that matter was outstanding, the bill was going to be a little higher, but I expect future bills would go down.
Any other questions on the warrants? Open up the public comment. Any public comment? I'll close public comment. All right, so I want to make a motion to approve the warrants.
Move to approve the warrants.
We have a second.
A second.
We have first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No,
Two ayes, or excuse me, three ayes, two noes. Ayes have it. All right, moving on to item 2, it's becoming item 1, update on wastewater tertiary plant operations and capital improvements. Justin.
As you just said, Mr. Mayor, Justin is here to give an update on all of the things that Waterstone has accomplished this year so far, especially with the interconnection project. I think that will prove very fruitful, which Justin will go into more detail.
so just quickly, can I clarify, no staff report, no documentation for the public on this? Mr. Lee?
Yes, I deferred to Justin on this. So,
No, there was no staff report prepared.
No.
And also with, on that note, with the week it's been, you guys are just gonna get what's been going on, what's
Well,
happened,
usually
what's
the
got
city
done.
manager prepares a staff report.
Let
for-
Justin speak.
So it's, yeah, it's been a busy week. Good evening, everybody. The interconnect project has been completed and has already proven successful over the past week, delivering well water to the tertiary plant and onto the golf course. Using the well temporarily over the last 6 days, with all the new permanent modifications, I was able to deliver 650,000 gallons a day to the plant, up from 300,000 gallons a day back in May, when we were only able to move water through a 4-inch fire hose and an old infrastructure that leaked and couldn't hold a line charge. Everything is working better than expected. Now for my infamous what's next, ending on my reports. The part that pushes the city into another project. George has tasked me with putting together a project scope to connect our tertiary plant to Howard Park. This is another step toward the bigger goal of Ione being dependent on Ione. We are also in the process of amending our permits to allow us to use our own water from the sewer plant, treat it through the tertiary system, and use it to irrigate the golf course. If all goes as planned, this could be in place as early as next summer. A quick list of projects so far this year include upgrading our SCADA system, refurbishing the sand filters, finishing the tracer study, building a temporary interconnect project, and then completing the permanent interconnect project. Each of these efforts shows the state that we are actively working to pull ourselves out of the aging infrastructure issues. And with this progress, it helps in our efforts to receive state funding. That was a part of the give and take with the state, was showing them that we are trying here and that we are putting our own money into these projects to allow for grant funding. Slowly but surely, we are getting there, Ione. And yeah, with that, I just want to say thank you to everybody and also the council for entrusting me with these projects. It's been great. A little stressful, but we're getting there, guys. So thank you, everybody. Any
Thank you,
questions for me?
Justin.
Any
Thank you,
questions? for me?
Justin. Any questions for him? No? All right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoy your evening.
Any public comment on this?
We ask any questions?
Do you want to go, Justin, or you feel like taking a question or two?
Public comments, right?
Yeah.
There's public comment.
I'll sit. You guys can ask me a question, I'll answer.
Justin has done in 6 months what we haven't done in 10 dang years, 12 years. All we spent money and this interconnection. There was people on this council a long time ago and present that didn't want to have this hooked up. They wanted us to take CDC's water. It's contamination, especially when you got 3 kids that got cancer and all live in Castle Oaks. I think you people ought to be proud of yourself too. This is ridiculous, taking CDC's water. It's proven that it's industrial waste. And you need to straighten up. Thank you.
Another public comment? Oh, yes.
I just have a quick one for Justin. So you said it was up from 300,000 to 650,000. The golf course was looking, I'm sorry?
Yeah, well, it's not questions. You're supposed to address that.
He's not obligated to respond. It's just.
Oh, he's not? Okay.
It's just.
So,
public
so my
comment.
question would just be, behind my house, it's starting to turn yellow again. So I don't know if 650 is enough to water the course, because they were talking about aerating today and tomorrow, which means that ground is going to be probably more dry because they've shut down the course for the next 2 days while they aerate. I just don't know if 650 is enough to keep up. So sorry if I was looking that way and not addressing you guys, but I don't know what it takes to fully water the golf course. So you could say 300 to 650, but if it needs 1,200, it really doesn't matter that much. The areas behind my house are starting to turn yellow in spots, and they've done an excellent job. They're mowing it like twice a day. They're out there. I mean, that thing was looking really good up until just before the weekend, and then it started going more yellow. So that was really the question I wanted to ask him, was how many gallons do they need to keep it green? My concern is, like I say, they're aerating for the next 2 days. So all that soil is going to be open to the air. So if there isn't enough, it's probably going to get browner before it gets greener, right? Is that okay?
I would suggest that he defer to SGM for that question.
This is a golf course question, has nothing to do with us.
Well, he knows how much.
Let's get the science behind the wastewater treatment plant. I think that'd be helpful for everybody, right? That's fine.
Well, if you want to get up and talk.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Dave. So the tertiary plant incoming water is 650, but you have water already standing in the plant in all of our structures. And so what you're seeing coming out is 800,000. So from the time I started the well up until the time it began to, drop, it's a reservoir. We've seen 850,000, 830,000, and we're at 800,000. One day we actually got 950. So although coming in at 650, coming out is a different total for our effluent. So yeah, it's just it's a weird process through that plant. But I just want to clarify. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Justin. Any other public comment? Close public, we got anything, chief? Close public comment? All right, thank you, Justin. Okay, moving on to the original first one, presentation and updates by RRM Design Group regarding Howard Park Master Plan.
Yes, Gina Chavez previously attended the Parks Rec Committee and did a presentation. It was well received. They had some questions, they had some comments. So she is here now to present a revised presentation, taking into consideration some of the Parks and Recreation's comments. Gina.
Yes, thank you, George. Good evening, council members and community members. Thank you for having me this evening and entrusting me with the jewel of your county. Charles, Howard Park is really an amazing facility. My office designs parks primarily. That's what we do on a daily basis, but it's rare to come across a park of this size with the complexity of uses that you all have out here. Not to mention the natural beauty of the landscape, the mature trees, and then also layering on the historic and cultural significance of the site. So we understand that a master plan and a community process has taken place. So what we aim to do here is just add another layer of detail and structure to that plan that you already have. So it was a little bit more general, that the master plan that we started with, and now it was more of a concept. So now we're really adding the details of, okay, how many parking spaces is this? Where do these paths connect? And what are the uses and what are the intended uses? So I have a plan behind me, but really our goal with this plan is to retain the existing uses that are out there, add some new uses, including some revenue generating uses like parking, some rental event spaces, and also maybe some uses that don't necessarily generate that much revenue, but are a benefit to the community, like new softball fields. So maintaining a park of this size is a huge effort and expense, and that is the reasoning behind trying to add some uses here that will bring revenue to your community so you can support this huge facility that you have. So like I said, what you have out there is really beautiful, but it needs a little bit of structure and organization. So I'm going to walk you through the site briefly. There's also some plans floating around, and then we'll have some time for some questions. And I'll also talk about the next steps in our process. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So we have this plan up on the wall. These are the same plans, but this one we added a little bit of color to show the definition of the spaces and the paths. And then we have some concept boards showing some character images of ideas that we are thinking of what the park might feel and look like. These are all ideas, so we're welcoming your input so that we can incorporate it into the next step in the process. So today you have two entrances to the park along the Highway 124 here. And there's one here and then one I can't quite reach up at the top of the sheet. But what we would like to do is potentially look at the option of adding a third entrance along the Foothill Boulevard side. So maybe something down here, which is a little bit further away from the new community. So we're looking at that concept. But with all of the entry points, we're really we want to establish a sense of arrival, so that you can really see where the entrances are. And you can do that through signage, decorative monuments, and landscaping, and then also potentially having some gates so that we can have some restricted access so we can control who comes in, and then maybe charge for parking during events. So that's what we have at the entrances. And then once you get into the park, today it's very confusing about where to drive. When I first drove in the park, I almost drove from the top level of the parking lot off to the bottom. There's a drop off that you don't really see because it's hard to see what the definitions of the spaces are. So really what we're looking at here is adding some hierarchy for cars, pedestrians, and bicycles. So all this gray that you see is where cars would be allowed. And then the brown paths are where only pedestrians, bicycles, and horses would be allowed. So this historic racetrack that you have is really cool. Like, we thought if we could really define that a little bit better so that you know exactly where the edges are and it completes the full loop, then that would be an amazing amenity for pedestrians, bicyclists, and maybe horses. So right now, this is all really vegetated and you can't really go all the way through. So the idea here would be to clear that all out and have this racetrack redefined and have the sports uses in the center, and then some of the other uses around the edges. So the equestrian uses, where you hold the homecoming event up there in the trees and the grassy area, and then also at the beer garden. So we're looking at really defining some of those spaces up there. But starting with the sports, today you have baseball and soccer. And the soccer fields are mostly all grass, which they need some irrigation upgrades. So we're working on that in tandem to this project. But we're also looking at creating some paths to these spaces and parking down the middle. So right now there's some informal parking down the middle, but it's not defined. So in this plan, we would create gates that control when people go in and out, and it would cut off car access on Foothill. You would only have car access from Highway 124 into the center zone where people going to the sports events would park. And you would have ADA accessible parking spaces as well as ADA paths to all of the fields. And that's what these brown paths are. And then in the centers of these fields, you would have more pedestrian amenities like snack shacks, restrooms, playgrounds, picnicking, so that the families of the people at the sports events have things to do as well. So that's what we have for the sports. And then right now, this is all vegetation. Sorry, I'm trying to, it's hard to speak to you all, but that bottom half of the track, that's all vegetated. So the idea here would be to add 3 new softball fields as well as a new parking lot here. So you get this whole new parking lot and then the parking in the middle, all primarily for the sports uses. So that's the center of the track. And then around the track, we have some other elements. So we have the equestrian area down here, and these are the existing amenities, the Memorial Arena, and then you have like some gravel areas for parking. But what we would like to do is create the more structured parking so that people know exactly where to pull their trailers up. So we have that along here, and then we have a little bit of more open staging space for people who are going to the livestock pen, bringing in hay or whatever they need to do, creating that flexibility for them. And then we also have this idea that we would love feedback on of adding some potential camping in this area. So this is all a wooded area, so we could do some hiking, camping around here with a trail that could also double as day hiking. And then we also have shown on this plan some RV parking for camping. So those are some potential revenue generating sources as well. And then up on the northern end, where you do the homecoming events, we are looking at providing a little bit more structure so that you could have like a rental space, like an amphitheater with some trees and vegetated landscape, something that people would want to rent for weddings or parties, anything they wanted really. But that's the idea behind that space up there. And you can see we also are maintaining the homecoming uses. So there's a bunch of tents. It shows how we would lay them out along these paths where people could walk along the paths or maintenance trucks could drive along to set up the pop-ups for homecoming. And then we have added picnic around that. And then we thought the playground is in a good spot where it is. We would really just build on what you have there and provide some ADA parking and paths to it. And then also the beer garden. That's a really cool amenity that not a lot of parks have. So it already has a lot of character, just really building on that and maybe making it something that you could do on a more frequent basis, maybe more than just homecoming. So we have some areas where trucks can pull in and park back there and serve food or beer, and then people can get their food and go hang out in the beer garden, go play horseshoes, and even rent those spaces. Like a lot of people want to rent spaces like that. So that's that area. And then there's the dog park up above, and that also needs a little bit of structure, some paths to it, some fencing, separate large, small dogs. And then alongside that is a skate park, which is in pretty decent shape. But we also noticed that there's a BMX track planned in the master plan. So we have that included as well next to the disc golf. And then also providing some pedestrian connections up to north of the cemetery there. And then there's pedestrian connections throughout this plan that I encourage you to take a deeper look, but probably don't have the time to go through them all. We're adding a little bit of hiking along a nature trail, looking through here through the center. Currently cars go through here, but if we can restrict that access and just make it for people and dogs, then that would be, that would maintain that pedestrian feel of the center of your park and make it safer for everyone. So the next steps in this process is to hear your feedback tonight, incorporate it into the next step in the process, which would be a refined pen drawing with color. And that's where we're at. Also, we're doing some costing exercises to figure out what this whole plan would cost and also bits and pieces of it, because it's just unrealistic to assume that anybody could afford to implement an 87-acre plan all at once. So George has been looking at some solutions for funding, and we're preparing plans and diagrams for him to continue to do that so that we can get these pieces built one at a time. If we have a plan to guide us, then we can continue to implement it as funding becomes available.
I think one of the biggest things to point out is the structured parking. Because in the future, Howard Park, the city, the residents of Ione has always supported the park financially. So again, but however, it's considered a regional park. So again, I think one of the main priorities is to try to monetize this park, while at the same time giving Ione the benefits that they deserve, such as free parking. So for example, if we, figure out a way to monetize the park, one of the benefits to the Ione residents should be that they get free parking because they support the park financially, their property tax and whatnot. And then anyone outside, coming in from the rest of the county, they would have to pay for parking. But this would generate a significant amount of money parking wise, so that we could earmark all those monies raised to the development of Howard Park only. So again, I think one of the best things that she's done is figure out a real good structured parking where there's some easy access, all the ADA requirements, because that's been sorely lacking, as everyone knows. So I think that's one of the things that she's really done well is kind of structure the parking. That way it allows us to monetize the park in the future.
Thank you, George.
Questions?
That it?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
I know, no questions, but I have a comment. I'm glad to see about the RV, the camping aspect of it. That was something I was really looking for at some point. I know that can be a revenue. We do a lot of traveling and that can be a moneymaker. Thank you for your presentation.
Of one
Is it-
big.
We're not,
Council-
that's not, Larry, it's not your time to talk. I'll give you a chance. Any questions from council? Comments?
It's been suggested quite a bit to fence the athletic fields in. Not necessarily entire park, which is a good idea, but to fence the athletic fields in, have the associations build in a parking fee, give parking passes, let Ione residents in for free, but it be generated off of the soccer games, the softball games. They collect the fees. Because I mean, I've been to softball games and I pay for parking. I pay for parking. I paid to get into the park.
Yeah.
And we don't have the staff to do that, but if we built it into the contracts with the visitors. And the RVs for the horse arena, I've always been a strong advocate. They'll charge $30 to $35 a night. That's what they pay. And they don't need sewer hookups. As long as they have electricity and maybe some water, horse people are fine with that. So if you could put 50 hookups back around the backside of that hill.
Any other council comments or questions?
No.
Okay, all right, open up to public comment.
I basically have questions, but I wanted to know how much room you have for food trucks, or how many food trucks?
So in the drawing, currently, we're showing 4.
I know we need more than that.
So we could structure this. There's lots of space back there to add some here. This is a little tight
We
over
need
here.
like at least, I would say 8.
8, okay.
And then my other thing is I wanted to say I went to Pee Wee football.
Hey, Mitzi, you want to say what you do, why you're so involved with this?
Well, I used to be president of Homecoming. I'm no longer president. I still am involved in getting funding, getting the money for it. But my other thing is, I just wanted to make a point of telling you, I went to Pee Wee football this weekend out at Argonaut. It was $8 for parking and $1 per person is what everybody pays. So George's comment, I think, was pretty good. RV parking, I know running it electric can get really expensive. I mean, people have generators or you dry camp. So I don't know how much, I would rather see more spaces and no electric, depending on cost, of course. So, yeah. And you're not changing beer garden, are you?
No, just sprucing it up a bit.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Missy. Larry?
Okay.
All right.
Dave Livingstone, Wildflower. I think you have some great suggestions here. And I like the idea of defining the horse race racetrack. And I'm interested in like the historical significance, because I think a lot of people in town don't know that. And guests don't know that. So a sign here or there, just explaining that and making that a little bit more attractive where some of the fences have fallen apart. I also like the idea off of 124 as access to the park versus off Foothill. I think Foothill has enough traffic now with events over there. It becomes very cumbersome for people in Wildflower to get in and out of their homes. So I highly recommend that. And also, in my time and walking through the park and so forth, when there are events like soccer and softball and stuff, I've seen a lot of people drive their cars, kind of like they're off the reservation and going into places, and some of them at a speed limit that's not safe. So anything that you could look at would be a great improvement on that, I think. And then I love the idea of sprucing up the beer garden. And one last thing, I think, there's a cost related to this. So I would think that the city can do events that would generate funds for this project. And, there's a lot of things we can do. I remember a few years back, the Pizza Hut over here had an event, and I never saw so many people in one building in my life. And that was for midget wrestling. So you could have a couple events a year. Midget wrestling would bring people in from all over the county. Thank you.
That is true. Thank you. Any other public comment? Got anyone on Zoom, Chief?
I want to,
Close
I'd
public
like to
comment?
mention one thing after we close it, is that I'd like to consider a dump station, RV dump station. Like I said, I do a lot of traveling and it's expensive, and we have nothing close. The closest is Rancheria in Jackson, and they are revenue makers, and it can be monitored, through credit card usage. And so we don't have to have staff there or anything. And I think that would help.
All right. Any other discussion from council?
I'm just glad there's so many people talking about the beer garden. I appreciate that.
And I'll have Janice or George send you a document on the historic significance of the track. So I got that for you. Okay, with that, we will move on to item 3.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Appointment of Parks and Recreation Commissioner to fill one vacancy for term September 2025 through September 2027.
You have to step out of the room.
Oh.
This appointment as a relative of Councilmember Maida.
Oh.
Okay, we all have one person that applied, Anna Catelli. You all have the letter in front of you, so I called her up and told her I'd be happy to appoint her. I'll make sure it's all okay with council. She is a relative of Councilmember Maida's, so.
No problem.
Questions or discussions on? No? Okay, do we have to make a motion for?
It's appointed.
Go to the council and public comment.
Okay, we'll open up to public comment. Any public comment on this?
I've known Anna for years and years and years, and I think she would be a wonderful addition.
Thank you.
Well, I was for it right until Mitzi got up. Just kidding. Sorry, just kidding.
Any other public comment? Any on Zoom? Nope. All right, we'll close public comment. Okay, someone want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion that we appoint Anna Catelli to the Parks and Recreation Commissioner to fill the vacancy for the term of September 2025 through September of 2027.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to approval. Come on, grab Jody. Almost forgot you, Vice Mayor.
This is a professional service agreement with Weber Geo. Based on previous comments, it seems we're past the 15K threshold, so council has to approve the agreement at this stage. So it's here for your approval.
Okay, any council?
And it's for building department services.
Okay, any council comments or questions?
I have some clarifying questions. First, no staff report to give the background. Did you draft this contract?
It's from my office, yeah.
You drafted the contract?
Yep.
For a third-party vendor? For a professional services agreement for a building inspector?
It's a pretty standard professional services agreement for city contractors.
Okay, so this is not just for building inspections, correct?
Only for inspection and plan check are the services that they included in their scope.
There's engineering costs, office admins at 110 an hour. This agreement encompasses everything an engineer would do. The agreement was drafted by you in January. To date, 66,000 for just this year. So it's almost like one of you or both of you took it upon yourselves to indebt the city for $66,000. And the only reason this is here is because the warrants were questioned again. And then we got a 9-month-old contract that had been in place for 9 months. You can see my issue with that. And I brought that up multiple times last year when we said, where's our contract with Weber Geo? And it was, I'm under my 15 grand. And it kept rolling forward. I'm under my 15 grand. So what services have been performed for $66,000 that are not a building inspection?
Well, they do all the building inspections. They do all the plan checks. I think Wildan is only volunteered at this point to do the work associated with Wildflower in terms of the street work, in terms of verifying some of the issues that have gone on in the past. So we do not have we do not have an in-house building inspector. We save money by farming the
I'm
building
not
inspections out.
questioning that.
No, you are questioning it.
Mr., I am
Okay.
asking
So
clarifying.
I'm telling you that right now, we're saving a
Defensive.
significant amount of money by
Um,
farming out the building inspection services, rather than having someone on our own staff paying insurance, paying all the other, associated costs. So again,
Okay, I'll continue. So we didn't put out an RFP for a building inspector. So we have 2 city engineers now, it appears. Why are we not building a small percentage into this rate to cover our administrative costs, which we're allowed to do? I mean, for their office assistant, they're charging $110 an hour. We can put in a small percentage of our admin fees.
They should be collecting fees for all their work, so.
Yes, but they could collect part of an admin. We could have part of that. It's a common practice. I would like to see, see their invoices to see what exactly totaled up to $66,000. You're telling me that that was just for building inspections and plan checks?
Among other things, I don't know. Like I said, I think it'll, when we.
Well, we've approved $66,000 in warrants. We should know what we're approving. They've not worked on anything else besides inspecting homes, and we don't have any new homes quite yet. I mean, we have the ground infrastructure. Wildflower hasn't started building. I don't think there's maybe one house framed out there. So if I could get their invoices for, I think this year it was 61,000. If you add last year, it adds up to 66,000. There's no cost built into this contract, so it's open-ended.
Well, it's on-call building department services. They perform as needed.
Well, it
It's
sounds like
hourly
they're
rate per
performing
staff.
more than building inspections, and that's what I would like to see.
Okay.
Any other council questions? I have a couple real quick. The city does collect and then they up the price when it goes to the builder. So when we do that with Wildan, their cost is, if it's $200 an hour, we up it by like $50 or something. I can't remember the real number, but the city's always upped it. The other thing is, council members at any time can come down here and look at the bills, not just the warrants, and I do it all the time. So at any time, any council member has the open policy to come down here and look at any bill they want to, just so everyone knows.
Well, I'm still trying to get my emails.
I got a couple of comments. Number one, I think it's a great idea that we contract it out. What I'd like to see is the building inspector position on the salary schedule completely removed, because I agree, we're not paying insurance, et cetera, CalPERS, blah, blah, blah. We had an outsourced building inspector for many years. The last couple of years we had it in-house. It hasn't worked out. So I'm okay with that. I do have a concern that there wasn't an RFP put out, so maybe there was another company that could have given us a better price. I don't know. And then also, why are we getting this in September when the contract was done in January? So that's a question I have. But I'm not against outsourcing building inspection at all, or plan checks.
The one thing I will remind everyone is when Wildan went out to RFP, no one bid on it. No one wants to do this. Wildan just kept going on for another year. So engineers do not want to work for the city of Ione.
There's a reason.
Me personally, I've been pleased with Weber Geo, and I know staff is. And so I refer to staff that have to deal with, like Jordan, for example, who deal with the inspections and the scheduling and the company and the home builder or home buyer or whatever on these things. And they've been really good. And so I depend on staff, and I appreciate their advice. And I also am smart enough to, on my own, to go and do my own research on it. So anyway, I'm happy with them. The only thing I'm not really for removing the, I'd like to keep that position open, but as a salary savings, so we don't have to go through the process of having to, at some point, create another create that position again. It's done all the time at the state. That we keep that position and a salary savings and use it later, at a later date if necessary. Hope maybe we will never have to do it, but at least we won't have to go ahead and start it, just go through that process again.
Thank you, Jody. Any other council comments or questions before I open up the public comment?
I know for me with Weber Geo, it's interesting that Jackson uses them, Sutter Creek uses them, San Andreas uses them. They're used in quite a few different places. They do have an office in Jackson, which means a lot of times when we call, instead of delaying the process, they're available immediately. So I don't have a problem with Weber Geo. I will say the contract and seeing the date on that is disheartening. but I also understand the need for it. Farming it out is definitely the way to go. I also see the staff working well with Weber Geo, so I'm happy for that.
The gentleman that comes is Mr. Larry White. Larry White is on time. He's very reliable. He always shows up and he's very dependable. And the staff enjoys working with him and so forth, and he does his job well. So again, from everything I've seen, he has been sterling. He never shows up late. He always shows up on time, does his job and leaves. So
I don't think anybody's arguing that Weber Geo is not acceptable. My position is a competitive bidding process. Period.
So on the contract, it says Matt Hospital is our contact. So is he not our contact?
he's the owner, but my contact is Larry White and the staff's contact is Larry White.
All right, open up to public comment. Any public comment on this item?
Good evening again. I appreciate everyone's comments about how amazing Weber Geo is and how many other entities they may work for. That's not the point. The point is policy and procedure, once again, was not followed. Okay, we have ordinance 505, which was adopted by the city council in 2019 and amended the city's bidding and purchase policy, which says expenditures of 10,000 to 15,000 authorization by the city manager, but it requires formal bids and proposals per the city contract, plus a city contract. Okay, expenditures over $15,000, $1 is authorized by the city council and again requires formal bids and proposals plus a city contract. I note on the agenda, it says approval of professional services agreement with Weber Geo. I think that's a moot point. The contract was signed. Okay, it was signed by Weber Geo in January and signed by representatives of the city in February. What do we need to approve? How did it get approved? I went through the agendas for meetings prior to the date the city signed this agreement, which was signed by the city manager, Mr. Verinsky, and our city clerk, signed on February 4th. There's no meeting that addresses Weber Geo, a contract, a discussion, a decision, or a vote. How the heck did it get approved? I understand that government requires bids, proposals to make sure we're getting a fair shake. That didn't happen. This was a backdoor thing again, and I'm going to mention it again. The contract was signed. It was never on the agenda for city council to discuss or decide or vote on. And here we have on tonight's agenda, approval of an agreement that was signed 9 months ago. How? Who did this and why? Again, the issue is policy, procedure, and following the municipal code. And I understand that our city manager has mentioned before that his job, he believes, is to shortcut things, to get stuff done, to cut through the red tape. Well, I'm sorry, but the municipal code is quite clear in regard to the city manager's duties. 2.10.080, powers and duties. It is the duty of the city manager to enforce all laws and ordinances of the city and to see that all franchises, contracts, permits, and privileges granted by the city council are faithfully observed. Once again, this was another backdoor deal that never should have happened. I think that contract should be invalidated. It needs to come before the city council for discussion, decision, and other proposals solicited if in fact anyone wants to submit a proposal. Just another example
You
that
got 30 seconds.
we need to follow policies and procedures, and once again, it didn't happen.
Any other public comment?
Dave Johnson again. I agree 100% with what she said. I'm not on anybody's team. I talked to Jody a little bit before the meeting. All I care about is process and procedure and that we're following it. When things like this happen and these guys ask for forgiveness later, when they totally did something wrong, and now you guys are going to vote on it and give them another pass. I just see this keeps happening where Josh writes a contract that exceeds a budget. No problem. We vote on it. We're in violation of it. You guys still haven't addressed the salary from last year. And he puts that stuff in front of you. He's billing you for the time he does this, which insults me even more because you guys should have known before that was even put in front of you to sign it. It violated your current salary stuff and it still hasn't been addressed for last year. Now we find this that was signed in February, that you guys, anything over 15 grand should be brought in front of you guys so you can do your jobs and say, hey, did we do everything we were supposed to do? When we're talking about a basketball court over in the train, it's like, did we check with the neighbors to find out if that was gonna be a problem for them? They're not giving proper guidance. This stuff gets up in front of you guys, and all of a sudden you're forced to deal with somebody else's freaking mess that you had nothing to do with. But in order to keep the ball rolling, you have to vote on this stuff. They're the ones that are screwing this stuff up. At some point, you guys got to hold them accountable. They had no authorization to sign that without a vote from you guys. So this is what gets me going, where I feel like I need to come down here because it's like, how many times are you going to keep giving them passes when he has a selective memory about the easement through the park? We've had Amador Water come in here twice and say he's dealing with George. I'm sorry, I should say city manager, and he's denied it both times. And you've had the head of Amador Water tell you he is talking to him. So there's a pattern of behavior here that I think at some point you guys have to take serious and say, we're not giving them a pass anymore. They need to come to us when this happens. And Josh should not be able to bill you for stuff like that when he's writing on the contract that you guys haven't even approved. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
I've lived in Amador County forever and I've lived in Ione forever. If you take the time and go around and talk to a lot of contractors, they won't bid on anything in Ione because of the past city councils and the last city managers and stuff. They won't bid on it. I know one contractor, he told me only way he'd come to Ione is if they give him cash and promise him they wouldn't bother him when he was doing the work. But if that building inspector comes on time, the contractor doing a roof, he loves that. He's making money. If he has to be held up for a couple extra days, he's losing hundreds of dollars. So if you got a building inspector that comes when he's called, hey man, you're not going to get anybody any better than that. Because I've seen a lot of these building inspectors that come in here and they didn't know what they were doing. So, and I think you guys have talked about this before. And I think you put it out to bid. I don't know how long ago it was and nobody put in for it. So you had to go hustle and find somebody. So, and you guys are all doing a good job I'm going to just say the last 6 months, we've got more done in the last 6 months than we did in the last 6 years. And our city manager is doing a good job. The attorney's doing a good job. People got to realize anything you have done is going to cost you money. Go to McDonald's. 2 people, $25, $30 for a little hamburger and french fries. It isn't any good. So, I mean, everything's expensive. So if you got a good inspector, keep him because you're not going to find anybody else anymore because they want too much money. You guys keep up the good work. I'm happy with what you're doing. I've been here forever. I've seen everything happen in this town for the last 35 years, and you guys are doing great work. I don't care what anybody else says. You were on Facebook. Somebody said you 3 people were a pack, and I'm not going to tell you what they said about him, but you guys were a pack. You guys just keep doing the good work. Dominic is coming around. He's doing a good job. You guys keep up the good work. I don't know if did you guys see it on Facebook? They called you a pack, man. Keep up the good work.
Also saw somebody call us the Three Stooges. I don't know who did it, but somebody did say that.
Yeah, but they called you a pack last time. And you know who it is too. She used to have a seat here.
Stay on topic.
Just keep up the good work. Dominic's doing a good job too. I don't have any complaints about him lately, so, and that's pretty good.
Andy raises an excellent point. When a contractor or anybody is contacted to come here to give a price or to do work, they don't show up. Or they're doing a half job. So the policies and procedures that Miss Edith was talking about, where you do have structure and you do have directives that must be followed. Policies and procedures will help our city keep their budgets in line. Thank you.
Well, this is kind of redundant, but nobody wants to work for Ione. It used to be so hard to get anything done, and it would take, sorry, the council forever to approve anything. I can remember there was a meeting that they said that they put it out to bid and nobody applied. So I remember George saying nobody applied. So we got what we got. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Anyone Zoom, chief?
Have one, but they let their hand down, so.
Okay. All right, we'll close public comment. Okay, moving on to reports and communications from city.
We haven't voted and
We need a vote.
it hasn't come back to the council.
All right. Someone want to make a motion?
I would like to have it come back. We did the council comments earlier. We were just supposed to ask clarifying questions and it turned into an long-winded conversation. One thing is that the city used to advertise jobs with California League of Cities, where all the professionals are. We have put it on the city website under jobs. Once in a while, it hits Indeed. So you have to circulate it to get the people to come. When Mr. Lee said that nobody applied for the city engineer job, Mr. Atlan said, what happened to Weber Gio? They like to work here. How come they didn't apply? Mr. Lee, your comment was, it's best if I don't answer that question. Neither one of you said, we have an existing contract. We drafted it in January. One of you said that. And then it shows up on the next agenda.
This contract isn't for engineering services. It's only for building.
Okay, then remove all the engineering because it says Exhibit A, engineering services, $200. If you're going to do a scope of work contract, then do a scope of work contract. This is a professional services agreement for related building department services.
Can we just make a motion and remove Exhibit A?
No, we would.
I'm sure Matt
we
would
would-
put it in there.
We don't want we can approach them with a modification.
Well, I'd like to see their invoices first.
You can see those anytime. They're public record.
Well, it's not quite as easy for me when I come down here.
I'd like to make a motion. I'm going to go ahead and ask for approval. Special service agreement with Weber Geo and Associates for the building department services, but we need to remove the engineering aspect of it.
I'll second that.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No,
Ayes have it.
just for the reason as it landed here on the dais.
Okay, now on to reports and communications from city attorney. Anything, Josh?
No.
Nope. All right, thank you. City manager.
I think everything is moving forward. The Train Depot Park continues to move forward in terms of some of the things being put together. I think all the concrete has been poured. Picnic Hill, as you all know, broke ground last week. That is continuing to move forward. We're going to be doing some grading here. And I think the most significant thing for me tonight is to announce that I am going to make Andrew Bonham the permanent accounting manager here effective immediately. I think Andrew Bonham has been diligent in doing her work. She's local. I think one of the biggest obstacles in terms of the city staff and having some consistency and stability has been the council or the staff changing. I think she'll be our fourth finance manager in the past 6 or 7 years. And I get questions all the time. Why is the audit not complete? Well, how can you have an audit? How can you complete an audit when you've had 4 city finance managers? She said previously that she was the 11th person that the present auditors had been working with. There is no way that you can have stability and consistency when so many positions have changed. Okay, and that to me is a matter of consistency and stability. And I think I appreciate this particular council encouraging me to hire local as much as I can. I think Andrea is going to be here. She still has a little bit to learn, but so far she has learned and done a tremendous job. She works very closely with Jane. And I'm very, very proud of the work that she's done and the things that she's contributed to this department. So Andrea, congratulations, okay?
You can't say no.
And that's it.
That's it. Okay, reports and communications, hold on, comments and committee reports, future agenda items from council members. We'll start with you, Councilmember Allen.
Okay, a couple of things. So we had another presentation tonight. In fact, we had 2. And then if you count Chief Mackey's presentation, we keep getting these oral presentations. And that is circumventing the Brown Act. And after tonight, nobody's ever going to know what these pictures are or what these plans are because you can't look it up. And that's the reason why I'm requesting that we have these. If we're going to have a presentation, the package is in the package, in the council package, and you get a PowerPoint presentation, something that people can read before the meeting and after the meeting. If you go back now 6 months to see this, you're not going to see anything. And so that's very, very important that you have these things agendized and you have a presentation. That's number 1. Number 2 is, so now we've hired a building inspector firm, which is great. I would like the building inspector salary position removed from the salary schedule. It's a simple matter of putting it back on. If you then decide at some point that you're going to go back to in-house, you just put it back on. So this eliminates that you could just hire someone as a building inspector and also have a contract building inspector. So it gives Weber Geo some protection as well. So if you don't need an in-house building inspector, remove it from the salary schedule. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Councilmember LaFane.
Well, it raises a good point. You want to find something, you go back through the minutes, you don't see it. You don't see a staff report, you see no documents, you see nothing. And that's a big red flag. We should put everything in writing. Everything. It gives the background. It gives, how did this get here? How and these oral presentations and updates are borderline. How you think due process is not important blows my mind here. You're playing with taxpayer dollars. They have every right to know what you're doing at every turn. Go ahead.
All right, Councilmember Mitchell.
So I just shout out to our fire department. They had a crew that went down to the Napa fire and then turned in their up in Shasta right now, fighting a fire up there. Last night when that lightning came through, the number of calls on fires, I think he had 3 different crews out all in seconds. You've seen what happens in other areas when you don't get those out fast. So if you get a chance to see Chief Mackey and Fire Marshal Debbie Mackey and any of those volunteer firefighters and our paid firefighters, please take the chance to thank them for what they've done. They don't get enough credit a lot of the time. I know you guys all love them. but it was a tough night. They had to cancel their barbecue today because they were all sleepy, except for the ones that are still out there working. So shout out to them. Shout out to Andrea. I'm looking forward to working with you on finance. Congratulations on your position. I truly appreciate the time and effort you and Jane have put in to get those audits done and keep us moving along. So keep up and keep on. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, I want to piggyback, Andrea, congratulations. I think it's well deserved. I've seen you firsthand on a daily basis, and you've really taken this and been a mover and a shaker. I also want to thank the input that people gave today regarding the presentation. I think it's awesome, and please don't stop. I'd like to see next meeting or sooner, an RFP put together for Castle Oaks landscaping. We need to get moving on that as soon as possible so we can get that improved. That's unsightly out there. I toured it today, and we need to get that taken care of.
I also need to get the scope of work with that. Sorry.
Yeah, the scope of work, and I've actually got some information here that I'm going to give Josh here regarding about a scope of work regarding that. And so we can put together the scope of work, and then we do the RFP. And lastly, like to encourage everybody to purchase one of these shirts. This is regarding the last meeting we had when we had the those parents with their children that are fighting some diseases and stuff. And so it's just a fundraiser to raise money and support them and let the families know that we support them.
Where'd you get them from?
I believe my wife bought these through either Ione Elementary School, but I'll ask my daughter, Anna, who picked these up for me today over at the coffee shop, and we'll find out, put it out there, but
be nice with our proclamation. We get that on the city website.
yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
No, you're good. I just got one thing. Senator Gill her staff is going to be here this Thursday from 9 to 12 here in City Hall. If you want to come down and chat with her staff, they're pretty cool people. Valerie will be here. So if you have any questions or comments or want to just get some communication to Senator Gill, her staff will be here. And with that said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
On Luis. I'm sure there's food on Facebook. On Luis.
Okay, Josh.
Put a picture on Facebook.